It's a no-brainer that Nigeria is one of Africa's most digitally active countries. Young people are building startups, creating global content, and driving innovation. Yet many remain locked out of real opportunities by poor infrastructure, limited access to capital, unstable power supply, and weak digital policy implementation. This is the paradox. Talent is absent, ambition is strong, but the systems meant to support young Nigerians in the digital economy often fall short.
Well, talent is absolutely abundant, but the gap between potential and reality continues to widen, raising concerns about jobs, competitiveness, and the country's future workforce. So to examine this, we are joined by, well, his name is Saleeman A. I call him Salesman. He's global IT leader and technologist with years of experience working across emerging and advanced digital ecosystems. You are welcome, Salesman Saleeman. I'm sorry, it's too hard to resist.
No, I know. Thanks.
Well, let's talk about this paradox that exists in Nigeria here, where talent seems to be abundant and then the opportunities seem to be lacking. I would have thought that when it comes to digital, that you just make your own parts. The road stops and you continue because you are empowered. But it seems to be not the case. Do you explain to me what we're looking at when it comes to the Nigerian instance?
You know, I think, Mazda, you kind of spot on, right? In Nigeria, for example, you have people with abundant knowledge and an abundant skill set as well, and abundant talent as well, too. And like you rightly mentioned, and when it comes to, you know, connecting that to jobs, you know, it does not match, because the truth of the fact is talent does not equals to jobs, right? And the reason for that is there's a lot of limiting factors in Nigeria. You know, I worked in, in US, and I've worked with a lot of companies in India as well, too. And there's never a time where I've been on a call with my India counterpart and it's like, oh man, NEPA took light, right? There's never been that part. And then, so that's one part. So we have to more solve the electricity. I think once you solve the electricity, a lot of your problems are solved. That is number one fact. And because of electricity is not solved, that's driving the cost of business, everything up. So companies, usually you have like Fortune 500 companies, set up companies. I'll use India as an example again, in India, right? So you have companies like Walmart, Target, Amazon. They have, you know, actual physical buildings, you know, hiring, you know, Indian talent in India, but they cannot do the same in Nigeria because just the cost of doing business in Nigeria alone, because of the cost of buying diesel and all of that, you know, continues to go up. So that is one part, right? And then the second part is, you know, just access to internet. You know, you have kind of less than 50% of the population still doesn't have access to internet, right? You know, we have access because we're in Lagos. You know, you go to like remote Kebbi, remote Borno, people don't have access to internet. How do we make sure people continue to have access to internet? How does government solve that? How does like global big corporation kind of solve that? And once you have access to internet, then that gives you access to remote opportunities, it gives you access to universal opportunities, and kind of makes competitiveness kind of more structured or equal as well.
Now, you mentioned the electricity, and before we go far, those are the basic necessities, right?
Very basic.
It's not going to be something that's solved now. And if you work for a bigger conglomerate, it becomes easier to tap into that interface. But now let's talk about startups that are just getting started. What then can be done for them that may not be able to handle the electricity issue? How do we curb that gap for them especially?
You know, you asked a very fascinating question, right? You know, the thing with startup is, startup one is, I've seen like the startup culture in Nigeria has completely changed over the last 10 years, right? It's kind of booming. You know, you have a lot of more younger individuals, and with AI right now, you have more people leveraging that, because now you can do things much faster, quicker to innovation, and quicker to build MVPs and take it to production as well too. But what I've seen is, you know, I think we Nigerians, the global corporations, the government, one thing they must do is they must buy local made, solutions, right? Because what I've realized is, you know, when there is a technology problem to solve, the first thing is they're picking up the phone, calling Oracle or calling some company in Australia, in Germany, do you have a solution for us? You know, when we wanted to do the, let's say NIN or something like that, right? Is why don't we have like a local startup that can do that for you? So once you start to empower them, then people kind of start to realize those potentials and say, okay, there's actually a market here, and I can sell this product to, you know, like the government, big corporations, and then they can start to get that capital to kind of leverage on that and continue to build on that momentum as well too. In addition to that as well too, I think the startups also have to, the founders as well too, kind of have to expand their source of funding as well too. So meaning just, you know, going beyond the local funding, seek international funding, you know, seek different, especially in China, in India, in the US as well too. And I think with that, with a lot of funding, you know, then you don't have problem of money anymore, worrying about electricity, and you can do things much faster and better, is what I would say.
Saleeman, explain your jargon, I won't lie. I want us to get down to the root of empowerment, because you spoke about that just now. When it comes to empowerment, how exactly are Nigerian young ones, lacking when it comes to tech? And are there efforts that are being put, whether by policies, whether by the authorities, or even individuals like yourself?
Yeah. So, you know, I like that you asked that question. I think the first thing is, you know, with the youth, we have to look at our curriculum. Right, you know, school curriculum.
So that's policy now.
That's policy. That's coming to policy, right? Is our curriculum kind of keeping up to date to, you know, the world of 2025? If you ask me, some are, most are not, right? So that policy has to be solved. That's one, right? And
you don't think that the education system is providing enough when it comes to tech or how the world is advancing digitally?
You know, I speak to, you know, I do a lot of interviews, right? I interview a lot of people in the US, and, you know, I also bring a lot of people to the US to school. And when I speak to recent Nigerian graduates, you know, some of them actually in good, you know, private schools and good federal schools have advanced to that level. And some of them I speak to, you know, they are still learning Fortran, you know, and they should be learning Python as a software, you know, software development tool, you know, or they're kind of talking about SQL and they're not talking about no SQL.
So when you move them from here there, you find out that their knowledge is lacking because
the knowledge is lacking, correct. Okay. So that is one thing I would say. And then the second thing is, what I've seen is here is people are more focused on training on a particular tool, right? Oh, I'm going to train you on, you know, let's say on SQL DB. I'm going to train you on a Grafana dashboard automation and all of that, right? And there is no path, only training, and there is no path to kind of like what I would say real life experience or internship. There is no path to it. So we kind of have to have a structure. So the way I always describe it is, you know, training without internship is like you learning how to drive with no roads. It does not make sense. You're not going to get any value.
So where are the roads? Do we have these roads in quote? Yeah, I'll let you ask.
That's where I was going as well. Where are the roads that lead to this?
So what I would say is, you know, like take me for example, right? When I got to the US, I went through an internship program. That's how I was able to break into the IT industry in the US. And so, you know, I would say government, and a lot has to do with corporation as well, too, is have to create a structure where, you know, IT, especially in the world of IT, you know, IT is contributing 20% to Nigerian GDP. Do you know that? So especially in the world of IT, so this global corporation have to create a structure and government where, you know, they're providing internship immediately to recent graduates where they can gain real valuable experience, whether it could be 6 months to 1 year. You gain that experience, you become so powerful. You know the power you have when you know you can be on your laptop and build something? You can do anything. You can work for yourself, you can work for any group. So that internship, that real life experience to be there, not just training and no real life experience. That part also has to be solved.
So I mean, I think like
so that is the road.
Yeah, that's the road. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, for me, that's not the road. And I think the reason why I'm saying this is because it's a no-brainer. Nigerians, the average Nigerian, when it comes, I tried to take a coding course one time, and it was an epic flop on my end.
Why? Why did you say
it was difficult. It was actually quite hard. Was, you know,
oh, darling, it's your brain then.
it took me time. I'm not good with numbers right now.
Okay.
But the roads, I mean, in such a way that, you know, like you said, there are so many platforms for internship. You've got Afrexim Bank doing this. You've got other foundations doing this. But sometimes you find a situation that in Nigeria, these roads, in my own understanding, are somewhat hard to find. So let's look at the average Nigerian that is looking for something in Nigeria. Is there any infrastructure or direction that leads to that here? Or does everybody need to now look for an internship out there?
Outside of
okay, I see where now why it's done. I understand why it's
so maybe not maybe
she doesn't have the road.
You have to fly out.
She's already looking at yes, she's already looking at. You know, I think there is not enough to answer your question in Nigeria.
No.
Absolutely not enough. It's not even like it's not even there. Let me say that, like, to answer your question. That is why I'm advocating that we need to create more. Right?
We need to create more.
Every corporation has to have that internship. This thing. There is something I have in my organization. I work for Lowe's, by the way, what we call the Launchpad program. Okay. And that is to launch career for recent graduates. Right? And it's absolutely no-brainer. And the way we do that is, and it's a simple program. You bring them on, you keep them on a team for 3 weeks. They rotate 3 teams within a year, and they get a powerful skill set, and they can do anything. So to answer your question is, do we have to create more? And then the other thing is, in addition to that as well, yes, people have to look remotely. People have to learn coding like you, but they have to be really good at it.
Or not like her, because she didn't finish.
I didn't finish.
And they have to be really good at it. They have to be really good at it, and they have to look for remote opportunities. I have a lot of friends, who are product designers, who are, web developers that are working for remote organizations in Germany and in UK.
Or here in Nigeria.
Here in Nigeria.
Okay. Now,
and there's platforms for that, right?
Okay. So let's focus on that now. Now we understand the challenges here in Nigeria. There's no power, the policies don't match, this and that. But then these opportunities exist outside of. How do we get these remote opportunities then? For those who are empowered, for those who have learned coding, not her, what do they need to do to get these opportunities?
Number one is you have to get a skill set. That's what we talked about, right? Number 2 is you have to work on your attitude. Your communication skills has to be really good. Your interview skills has to be really good. Mm-hmm. That's number 2. So work on those soft skills as well too. Then number 3, you have to have the right connections. So go on LinkedIn, right? That is one. LinkedIn is a really good platform. I'll tell anybody. Networking alone. There's a lot of job postings there, remote job postings that people are taking as well too. This from my friends I talked to you about, they're on LinkedIn. Go on remote jobs as well too. There's a lot of remote jobs there, and take those jobs as well too. Number 3, I would say, is look for.
What do these jobs come at? What do they manifest as? What kind of jobs would they be?
They will be, technology jobs. They will be like a web developer, software engineer, QA tester.
Okay. And I can learn this. I can learn this in my 40s right now, and
you can learn that in 6 months.
Oh, I'm out.
You can learn.
Okay.
No, you can, and you make, I would say, you make really good income out of it as well.
So what are we not getting in Nigeria? How much are we losing? How much opportunity are the youth losing? And what can be done to make these concepts that you've just explained here with the remote instances more available, or more, how can we make people more aware of these opportunities?
Number 1 is bringing people like this to your show.
Thank you very much.
That's it gives awareness, because you have a good reach and visibility as well. Number 2, like I said, is solving the problem of internet access to everybody, right? Because now is people are there's knowledge within that scope because you have internet, and that knowledge is not shared across because that connectivity is not there, right? And people don't have access. That's number 2. And then number 3, we have to have more organizations, expand, put Nigeria in a better image, and have like big organization. Really, the point I actually want to get to, right? It's really big, just like India. Really big organizations. I'm talking about Lowe's that I work for, Target. Come and set up IT centers here in Lagos.
I don't know if you agree with me, Inem. To do that, you have to have the right conditions.
Yes, and that is what I'm saying. So
now we're going back into policy.
We're going back into policy, and then we are going back into, and that is where the government has to, also has to take a role in here. They have a major role to play. They have to solve all of that, make sure that they have a conducive environment for these people to do business in, right? And we must do that, because the youth having half of your population, not having like 50% of your population, and 25% of that don't have jobs. Like, there's a huge potential. Why is nobody seeing that?
Interesting. You got something you want to ask? Well, I got something I want to ask. So you do a lot of empowerment yourself.
I do.
That's grand. In any of your endeavors, have you spoken to people in positions in authority, policymakers, to try and see how these opportunities can be made very available, or these conditions can be made available for? Because Africa is growing. In the next couple, by 2030, we've got one of the biggest growing populations, and our asset is actually the youth, the people. If you've got India having call centers for Microsoft all the way in India, we can't do that here in Nigeria because we have a teeming population of people walking the streets selling sausages, where they could actually be in air-conditioned environments, working on working for big corporations outside of Nigeria. So have you been able to engage any of these policymakers in your endeavors to see how this can be brought to fruition?
You know, to answer your question, yes, I have a foundation called SAS Foundation. And through my foundation, I do a lot of empowerment as well. And some of the empowerment is what you're mentioning, which is, you know, youth empowerment, you know, kind of focused on technology as well, too. And what I've done, you know, just to be very honest, is I've brought people out of Nigeria to the US.
You physically took them out?
Physically took them out to pursue a master's degree.
Do you have any room for one more?
I have room for one more.
Thank you. My name is Saleeman A.
No, I'm serious. Yeah. You know, bring them to the US to pursue a master's degree and go into the IT industry, right? And they're doing excellently well, making 6 figures. So I've done that. And in addition to that as well, too, I've given people, you know, tablets, you know, student tablets as well to make sure they have access to, like we said, internet.
Those in authority,
those are not policies to talk about, you know, but I'm going to get to policy because policy, again, is a real big, I think you have to be in the government to do any change in policy, you know. Maybe one day I'll get there.
So that's a challenge for you.
That's a challenge for me, maybe.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where my headspace was at, to say, and as much as there's a lot of beautiful work that is taking place, and of course your initiative is doing a great job, because to carry someone from here all the way there is beautiful. So well done to that.
Thank you very much.
I think it goes back to what Mazino said again in terms of policy. That basically says at the current present, we don't necessarily have the right space and policies to do that for our children right now.
Correct.
And I think that's something that we still need to tackle. Otherwise, there was a saying that was said, Mazino, some time ago, where they said talent will always go where it's rewarded. And right now we have a situation where in Africa, Nigeria, they just don't feel like they're being rewarded here.
Correct.
And like your platforms, we need to find a way to just mitigate that. So
exactly.
I think that's why my questions were like, my questions have turned.
You have opinions, not questions.
Yeah, my questions turned to concerns.
Well, Saleeman A. Thank you very much for coming through and giving us this it's like a conversation we didn't know we needed.
Yes.
And apparently there's so much there to unpack, and I hope that in the near future that these policies are made available and that young people, in fact, people my age, can find these opportunities and become, well, grand income earners at the end of the day. But thank you for your efforts through your foundation, and also thank you for coming through, honoring our invitation and having this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Mazino. And I've been a huge follower of your show, so it's an honor to be here with you and be live here with you. So thank you so much.